Good morning and welcome to week 3. I just finished grading all of the discussion posts for last week, and I want to remind you all to cite to the textbook, use the course materials as your foundation for your discussion posts. You can do outside research, but when you're doing that, use the UC online library. Citing the course material shows that you have an understanding of the course material as it applies to the discussion prompts. So the questions that are in the prompts tie directly to what's in the course material, and it is the best source for your discussion post, especially the original post. If you're doing a reply and you want to go further and go to the UC Online Library for research, you can do that. But be very careful to make sure you're using the course material. Do not use AI for any written assignments in this course. I have AI detectors that we use at the university. I understand that there's a very good place for those tools, but in these discussion prompts, that is not the proper place. This is supposed to be your analysis of the content that's being presented and the information that is being provided in the questions, and then going through and answering them. So, like with the definitions and the comparing and contrasting, all of the information that was in the course content should have been discussed in the definitions and the compare and contrast. It should not have been outside information that you got from other sources to where I can't tell that you are using the material, rather than just having something like ChatGPT construct your responses. This week, now that we talked about AI and the proper use of it, we're going to be talking about technology in the courts and how the courts are using AI and working with that. There are a lot of new types of computer crimes, responses that have already been made by legislatures and some that are in the works right now, how the courts are handling it, and there is a slew of ethical considerations when you are using AI as a student, as a scholar, as a lawyer, or a paralegal. There is a place for AI to do for basic research, for introducing yourself to a concept, for getting started on something. But your own work, your authorship should shine through on everything that you submit as a student, paralegal, or attorney. This is not an area where you can, neither being a student nor being a paralegal or attorney working in the legal field, can you rely on an outside source. Westlaw and LexisNexis are making substantial improvements with their AI sourcing. It's got a very easy to use process to do your research there. They are shepherdizing the cases, making sure that it is good law that is being put out there. So legal research is in the process of transitioning, but legal writing, academic writing should still be an individual's own output. It should not be something that is being copied and pasted from other sources. It should not be something that you are relying entirely on putting a prompt into a search box and having AI go through the internet and pull things together to give you a response. That's not helping you learn how to think as a paralegal or as an attorney. That's not showing that a student has critical thinking skills. So when you're working on everything this week and we're talking about technology of the courts, think about how all of those are tools, the proper place to use them, the proper way to use them, and differentiating with your own independent thought and work. When you're working for a client, they are hiring you as an expert in a field. If you are taking on a case that is not something in which you have expertise, you will have to research. You will have to go to some other sources to learn and brush up on the topic. But ultimately, it is the individual being hired to perform a service that is something uniquely designed for an attorney or an attorney staff as a paralegal. So just think about the differences in that and the pride of authorship in what you're submitting. So that's the discussion post for this week. And then for the course material, I do want to remind you all, you have an excellent textbook. Many of you are not using your textbook in the discussion post. It's a fantastic resource. Not so much when we're talking about technology, but on the other topics when you're doing your reading, when you're preparing for your discussion post and your written assignment, you can use the textbook as a source. And when you're using the textbook as a source, you will need in-text citations using the author's last name and the page number from where you got the information. So just make sure that you are looking at the page number that you're on, which is down here in the bottom right corner. Don't forget the 3 dots by the title will help you get the citation in the proper format. So that is a wonderful tool for you to use in this course to get to the higher level thinking that you need as a student, because you're working through all of this and you're processing it and you're getting your own critical thinking about the topics. In the work this week, we're talking about the interpreters of the law. When we're looking at a paralegal or a lawyer, they are interpreting the law on a regular basis, not just the AI tools. There's a difference between using an AI tool and being a legal professional. Legal professionals will use tools, but they are still an interpreter of the law themselves, and they use what the court has put out there, what the legislature has put out there, what the Constitution has, to look at a fact pattern before them and putting it all together. You've got a lecture this week, a really interesting seminar looking at magistrate judges. I've got this in here to show you all different types of legal professions. There's a broad category that you can go into so many different things with a legal degree or a paralegal degree outside working in a law firm or working for the court or the legislature. So I've got some of these things in here to show you about the Eastern District of Kentucky, which is where we are located at the University of the Cumberlands, and how the United States District Court works. This is a panel discussion just to get you a little familiarity with that. Then we're looking at administrative courts and ALJs. Things like workers' compensation, Social Security law, those go before an ALJ, an administrative law judge. It is different than your district court at the state and federal level, as it is an administrative body. It is looking at administrative law. It is judges that are hired to work for the administrative agency. They hear one type of case. They are very specialized in that. They are incredibly familiar with that type of law. So it's a really unique way for an attorney or a paralegal to really dive deep into something and have specialized understanding in that. I have done a lot of Social Security disability. I've worked with some of the food stamp and the local ordinances, helping people go through those processes. And it is very different than going before court or working in the courts like I do now. Social Security disability is going before that administrative law judge that only does those type of cases. It's a very technical, very rigorous process, and it's very different than other kinds of law. So I wanted to put that in there for you all to learn a little bit more about that. I have some additional links in here for those of you that are looking at law school. There's an ABA list of law school, pre-law resources, and just general resources for law students. So all of this is to help you look at the broad field, look at how we have our judicial process, how it is not what everyone thinks of as just going before the court. It's civil cases, criminal cases, administrative cases. There are appellate levels, and there's so many more things to our judicial process than the standard car accident case or a murder trial or a divorce or family court custody issue. It's a very broad field, so I want you all to think about all of the judicial procedure in a broader sense rather than just the standard common layperson way of looking at what is judicial process. So that's all the learning materials and the discussion post for this week. If you've got any questions, please reach out to me by email. We can meet on campus or virtually, whatever works best for you all. Have a great week.